Hi peeps, welcome back to my channel. Today for our disability video, I am talking to my assistant, Jennifer Arnold, who deals with multiple disabilities and multiple conditions. Besides being a wonderful person, she has had to cope with a number of disorders. So if you would like to stick around, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so you get notified when I have new videos out, and we will get started here in a moment. Welcome back. Today, as I said, I'm talking to my assistant, Jennifer Arnold. She is my virtual assistant, and we've known each other for many years. And one of the things that we have in common, besides love of books, love of writing, and a number of other things, is that we both have a number of disabilities and disorders. Now, Jennifer deals with the fact that she is HIV positive. She has Charcot-Marie tooth disorder. She has common variable immune deficiency. She has vascular reflex, and she has 3 bulging discs, so she has her plate full. Jen, why don't you say hi and tell me a little bit about the disorders that you deal with.
Well, hi everybody. Let's see where to start. The 3 bulging discs, we're not sure where they came from. Probably some damage I did to my back when I was in my early 20s coming back to bite me on the butt. So that's a good reason to tell people to be more careful when they're young. You're not indestructible, you just pay for it later. The HIV I've had for almost 2 decades now. And we found out in 2001, but I have traced it back to 1999 when I was infected. 2 of my newer diagnoses are the CVID and the vascular reflex. Those came at the same time. And both of them could be tied to my genetics. We're not sure. Well, CVID we are, but the leg one we aren't. And Charcot-Marie tooth is basically a form of neuropathy. It's very similar, and I get very similar, like tingling in the feet, cramping, and things like that. And so it's just really just a bunch of stuff.
Now, the HIV you have managed almost, I'm not going to say remission because I'm not sure what the term is, but you have got that under good control, don't you?
I have been undetectable for a decade. So it's completely under control, which is what confused us in 2017 when I was sick all year with the flu over and over, because my HIV was undetectable and we couldn't figure out what was causing the problem. And it turned out it was CVID. And I had to get a pneumonia shot to figure that one out, because that's the most common way to figure it out. Is you get really sick and then they give you a pneumonia shot and check the levels of your antibodies made by that shot, and they might as well have not given me the shot.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the CVID or the common variable immune deficiency?
Yes, it's what it is. How it was explained to me is it's my immune system was never very strong as a child. And they said when I hit my teen years, it probably started shutting down. But then in my early 20s, I was infected with HIV. And so we were focused on that rather than on any other issues. And so it could have been causing some of the symptoms that we attributed to my HIV. Because it just shuts down, and your immune system is just shutting down. I like to say my immune system likes to say, party over here, come on all you bacteria and germs and everything, let's have this big house party. And to deal with it, I get infusions every month. It's every 4 weeks on the dot, and it's a medication that's made using globulin. and it helps boost and give a jump start to my immune system to help me get better. And since I've been doing that, I heal faster. I get over illnesses quicker. I got a scratch on my foot a couple weeks ago, and within a few days, it was healed up. And I haven't had that in my life, so that was wonderful. But it's very draining. I always feel very tired for the first 3, 4 days after. I get migraines. It also makes it where I'm very hungry all the time. It's which is hard to do when I'm trying to lose weight to help my back. So it's a mess. But it's controllable, and I'll do that for the rest of my life.
Now that one, it is that like genetic or hereditary? I mean, can your
It
daughter, in fact, all of these, how do these affect or will they affect your daughter?
um, with the CVID, it is genetic. She has a 50-50 chance of getting it. We won't know because there's no sure way to test for it until your immune system starts shutting down completely and you spend all that time sick. And but I'm already thinking I need to take her in for genetic testing for the Charcot Marie tooth because it's similar testing to when you get neuropathy. They put the probe in and test your nerves, and I need to go get that done and also genetic test done for her. And because she's already showing signs that I showed at 18, and she's only 16, so there's a higher chance for her to have that one just from what I've seen. Um, but yeah, those two, and probably the vascular reflex could potentially be things that she has to face when she's older.
Can you tell me a little more about the vascular reflex and what that does?
It's leaky valves in my thighs. How they explained it is it's leaky valves, and the just doesn't get the right pressure, so you end up getting swelling and fluid retention and everything, discoloration to the to that limb. And to combat it, I use a combination of things: a fluid pill with a potassium pill because they have to go hand in hand, and then elevation at night. Usually, I have a wedge that I use. And it keeps my feet elevated. That also helps my back. And I use leggings, tight leggings for compression on my legs. I don't like compression stockings, and socks don't go high enough because it is in my thigh. So the leggings, real tight leggings, are the way to go for me on that.
What if you didn't take care of them? What are the ramifications of dealing with these?
The HIV, if I don't take my medication, I will it will eventually flare back up. I'll eventually an opportunistic disease will jump in there and will, take me out basically. I'll wind up in the hospital again, which is the worst possible place for me. The CVID, if I didn't go and get my infusions, it's the same thing. So those two kind of are very similar with that. But the medications I take for those keep those under control. The vascular reflex, eventually it will get worse, and the methods I'm using right now will not work, and I will have to go in for surgery. And what that'll entail is an ablation of the valve, which they'll go in and burn.
Hmm.
And I don't know the whole details about that because they're trying to avoid it. My discs in my back will eventually, we're hoping not. If I can't lose the weight, I'm looking at them eventually me having to have a fusion done. But we're trying to avoid that because it's not I'm about 70%, I think they said, more likely to have more pain than what I have now. And I already have a lot of pain with that. Um, and the Charcot Marie tooth will never get better. and it will just continue. It's just like neuropathy. It will continue to deteriorate over time.
What, how do these conditions impact your life now in terms of just everyday life? What does it mean for you to deal with these?
Before I can like make plans to do anything, like meetings like this, I have to look at my calendar to see if I have a pain appointment or if I have an infusion appointment, and I have to schedule my life around those. Um, with my HIV, I have to make sure that if I'm going to be away from home for more than a few hours, if it's going to be like overnight, I have to take that medicine with me. I cannot miss it. Um, Also, with my Lyrica that I use to control the neuropathic pain, um, I have to make sure that goes with me because I cannot miss a dose of that. And my pain pills are always with me because I never know when it's gonna flare up where I can't handle it. If I don't have the medications with me, I could get very sick or be in a lot more pain. And so I have to look at that and I have to make sure that I do not miss my doses every night of the medicines that I have to take nightly. I have to make sure that I don't miss my infusion appointments. I have to make sure that I don't, miss my pain appointments for my shots. And so my life kind of revolves around medications and doctor's appointments. But in between, I get to have it makes it because I follow all of that, I live a pretty good life. I get to spend a lot of time with my daughter and my husband and doing work that I love, and I couldn't do it without doing all those things.
Now, I know my back pain impacts how much I can be on my feet. It impacts, what I can actually do. Does your back pain limit your mobility, or do you work around it fairly well with the pain management?
I do work around it fairly well with the pain management with the shots. It doesn't make all the pain go away. Neither do the pain medicines, the pain pills. They make it bearable for me. But when I'm cooking, I have to sit down several times. My husband got me what he calls a granny chair. It's basically this little step stool that has a seat that folds down to where I can sit on that in the kitchen if I need to take a minute while something's cooking. Um, for that reason, I like to do a lot of casseroles because it's just throw a bunch of things in the oven and go. Um, it also makes my my foot pain a lot worse in my feet. It cramps up. They and I've noticed that when I have the shots, it's a lot better. It's a lot easier for me to stand because that causes me problems with standing too. So there's more than one reason why I have to limit how much I stand at one time.
I understand that. I too have a chair in the kitchen because if I stand too long, my back starts twinging, and that's from an old injury, but that damage has been done. Is there anything that you have gotten, and I know this sounds odd, but as a positive from this? I mean, has it changed your outlook? Has it made you understand other people's disabilities more? What do you take away from these conditions that you can count almost as a positive?
Well, I do like to say that whenever I was younger, I was a lot more selfish and self-centered, which most young people in their late teens, early 20s are. It's just the nature of that age, I think. And it helped me get out of that phase a lot faster, the HIV did. It made me a lot more aware of other people and what they might be going through, and more empathetic and more willing to reach out to new people who just got diagnosed to help them through that dark period that we all face when we're first diagnosed. With CVID and all the others, it was just it makes me even more empathetic because I understand more issues. Like with CVID, I can understand, while it's the opposite of what your issue is, it makes me very much more empathetic towards what you could be going through. Um, because I have the opposite problem doesn't mean that I don't understand how hard it is to deal with something like that. And of course, I always empathize with your back pain because I so understand back pain. And I just, I like to put myself in other people's shoes. I'm less likely to get out of my car and yell at somebody who might have a handicap sticker, but they'd look like they're okay. Because I know all of mine, if somebody sees me out and about, they're like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with her. And then I get into a car with a handicap sticker, they're going to start yelling at me because everything is invisible for me. You cannot look at me and see any of these conditions. And so um, I know eventually I may have to wind up using a cane, and so then it'll be a little bit more noticeable, but even with that, it's not a guarantee. Somebody's not gonna go, "Oh, well, you're not handicapped enough."
I think
And
that happens to a number of people who have to use some mobility aids. I mean, a couple of the people I watch on YouTube who are disabled and they use mobility aids a lot, they still get people coming up to them saying, "You're not disabled enough for that." And the truth is, you have no idea of what someone's going through unless you're walking in their life.
there's a meme I saw where it says, "I'm not faking being sick, I'm faking being well," because it is so much easier to fake being well than it is to let people know when you're sick. And if it's definitely easier to fake being well than it is to fake being sick. And just because I have a smile on my face and I seem chipper doesn't mean that I'm not in extreme pain that day.
I've encountered that with doctors before who ascribe every problem to my weight. Now, my weight does impact my back issues, but my weight didn't cause the MCAS. It didn't cause the food allergies. It didn't cause, all of those issues. And I found some people just, it's like they look for something to latch onto that they can say, well, it's because of this. It's not because you're really sick.
And it's like, no, are you not seeing the test results? And then I've had doctors where we could see that something was wrong, like when my legs swelled so bad, but we couldn't figure out what was going on. And just nobody had seen it before because it was just one leg. It normally, if you have swelling down there, it's both legs, unless it's like a blood clot. Well, I went in because I thought that's what it was, and it was cleared. I got tested 6 times for gout because doctors didn't want to listen to me that I'd already been tested for gout and it came back negative. And they just kind of, no, we're going to do it again. Okay, fine, whatever. Do whatever test you want to is what I wind up getting to
That's
with them.
supposed to be like the definition of not being sane is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
It was just so silly. It was, even my husband was there and he kept saying, 3 other I remember what was the 4th doctor, 3 other doctors have tested her for it, she's negative. You would be the 5th time, or the 4th time. Why are you going to test her again for it? It was just so ridiculous and so frustrating. And it wasn't gout. So that's I don't even remember how we got to the diagnosis that I have. Or even, I know that it was the cardiologist that gave me the diagnosis. I don't know what we wound up finding from my primary, honestly, that got me sent to the cardiologist. And I only see my cardiologist once a year, so obviously something's doing okay because I think she'd want to see me more often otherwise.
Well, you saw how long it took me to be to me to find out about the MCAS and find out why I was reacting to things. And it was insane. It was just like how many weird symptoms can you have until you actually find a cause for all of them together? And sometimes it feels like these conditions that are really rare, or they're not very well known. It's like a lot of doctors really don't understand them. And so they just want to give you a label as quick as they can. Sam went through that for years.
Oh yeah, I've heard about Sam's travels through the medical trying to find a diagnosis. It's so frustrating when you don't get an answer. And then I was told the year that I got the flu once a month every month except for I think May. For some reason May I didn't get the flu. And then my doctor told me, "Well, it's impossible for you to get the flu this much. These are false positives." I was like, "What?" Yeah, when you have HIV, it could throw up false positives. I still have yet to find any information that backs him up on that. And my infectious disease doctor, it made her go, "What?" So I'm not holding too much water with that one, as they say down here. But it was so he just was looking for anything to say to try to say, "Oh, well, you're not getting the flu. They're false positives. You can't possibly be doing it." Because he didn't understand what it was. And it was my infectious disease doctor who also specializes in the common variable immune deficiency. And that figured it out because she had me go in and do my labs, saw my HIV was undetectable because that's what we thought it was, and went, "Oh, let's do this test." And it's the only way to test for it. There's no test out there for this. There's no test for what you have. No definitive,
Yeah,
this is exactly what it is.
there are tests that can point toward it, but a lot of it is because for me it's a syndrome. And so it's a combination of many, many things. And like I think there are 56 different symptoms you can have for MCAS, and I have like 38 of them. So getting there was, it took my niece who has mastocytosis to prod me into going, well, you may have a mast cell issue because it sounds a lot like what I've got, which it's not nearly as bad as what she has. But, it took that to even shift my thinking over to going, maybe it's not just histamine intolerance, which it took years to get there too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a labyrinth.
Yours was
It's a jungle.
your road to diagnosis was just so frustrating, not just for you, but for those of us who care about you and love you and wanted to see your diagnosis, and to find out what was going on so that you can. It's the thing about a diagnosis. A lot of people are like, "Well, I would never want to be diagnosed." Well, if you're not diagnosed, then you don't have a way to make a game plan. And game plans are needed to be able to deal with life and make it through the day and just,
And
you know,
another frustration there is when the diagnosis is something that is variable and it shifts and it changes. Do any of your conditions have that issue? Do they just shift and change randomly? Like,
oh, yes, with the CVID, even my reactions to my infusion are different every month. Some months I get migraines, some months I don't. Some months I come home and I'm just so tired I can barely keep my eyes open by the time I make it home. And I just want to curl up and sleep for 3 days. Uh, but that's just the reactions to that. And I don't know how it would be if I wasn't on the infusions. Um, but
you were sick a
that's
lot. You were getting sick all the time.
Yes. And then not this past summer, but the summer before, if you remember, there was a shortage of my medication and we couldn't get my medication in. And so I didn't have my medicine for 3 months and I started getting sick again. I could definitely tell when I wasn't getting my infusions.
That's the thing with some medications. Sometimes you can't tell when they're helping, but you can sure tell when you don't have them that they do help.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and this is one of those that I'm like, well, the only thing I notice about it is I get migraines every so often, I get hungry. That was all I was noticing out of it. I'm hungry all the time, can't stay full, migraines if I don't eat, migraines if I do eat, and just so tired all the time for, like, almost a week, and now it's gotten down to about 3, 4 days. Um, but when I didn't have it, I felt run down, I felt exhausted even more than I normally do. I felt I wasn't hungry at all because my HIV medication, um, there's something in it that suppresses appetite, and
Mm.
so I was having to force myself to eat during that period because I was just never hungry. I never wanted to eat.
Do you know why the infusions cause different reactions? I mean, is there a is there something in the medication that will trigger off those like migraines and stuff?
There is a steroid in it, a corticosteroid in it, and so that corticosteroids can make you hungry and they can trigger migraines and all of that. And I not only get a corticosteroid in that, I also get one injected every few months in my back. And so those together, I'm finding a lot more of, I get a bigger, especially if they're close together in the month, I get a way bigger reaction to it in like the hunger and the migraines and stuff. And that's why I can go 2 to 3 months with no migraines, and then all of a sudden I'm getting really bad migraines, and it's because they're connected, and that's just one of my reactions to it. I know, reactions vary with people.
Everybody is so individual. That's one thing I've learned through this maze is that everybody's reactions to a condition or a syndrome or a disease, it's going to be different for each person who has it. Um, my MCAS is not like someone else's MCAS is not like someone else's, but there are the base common denominators. But on top of that, everything shifts depending on your situation. It can be depending on your environment. Um, do you live in Texas? Do you find that the weather impacts your conditions?
Oh, yes, very much so. As a matter of fact, it was raining this morning and last night, and I started getting my neuropathic pain has moved up to just under my knee, over the years. It'll eventually keep moving up because it's like peripheral neuropathy. Um, and I woke up several times last night from cramps in my feet, cramps in my legs, from the knee down. And it when I got up this morning, my daughter told me it had been raining, and I went, "That explains the cramping last night because for some reason it triggers it in me." I have arthritis around 2 of the bulging discs in my back, and so I feel the pain back there a lot more, and I'll swell up from that arthritis, when the weather changes, and I can't take a lot of, anti-inflammatories because they react with one of the medications that's in my HIV medication. As a matter of fact, I was recently, prescribed an anti-inflammatory and, was taking it and it was working well. And then I started noticing uh, some UTI issues, and it turns out that it reacted with my HIV medication, and it can cause kidney problems. I was lucky I found it out. I noticed things within 3 weeks. That was the newest thing added into my life, so it was easy to pinpoint the problem and get it. I just stopped taking it and was like, "Oh no, we can't do that. I'm not dealing with kidney pain." And we're just lucky it caused a UTI because it doesn't always do that for me so that I would notice it. Because I could have been taking that for years and not noticed anything until my kidneys were so damaged
Yeah.
that we couldn't even I would have had to have a transplant, and I'd rather not do that.
Okay, so you are a mother to a teenage daughter. who has some issues of her own. Why don't you talk a little bit about how it is dealing with your disabilities and with her issues? I mean, if you're comfortable with that, and talk about what your life is like in that manner.
Okay. Well, my daughter is 16 and she has autism. She's a person with autism, and she's very sweet, but sometimes very forgetful of we can't hug mom that tight because it'll hurt her back, or, you know, we can't poke mom in the shoulder because mom, we don't know our own strength or anything, and mom's a little bit more delicate than that. And she's so that's been a challenge with that. And then she wants me to go and do things with her. Like we were doing Special Olympics, and of course I had to be involved with her, just as a parent on the sidelines. And then I got really involved with being a coach. And then a lot of things happened with my health, and she was more focused on doing the Special Olympics than paying attention in school. So we wound up, for those reasons, quitting Special Olympics. And so she could focus more on that, and I could focus on my health. And right now, in all this time that we've been, since like March, we've basically been quarantining ourselves in our house. She has gone out for a couple of doctor's appointments. I've gone out for doctor's appointments. Other than that, we don't leave our house. And my husband, he will go and check the mail, or he'll go pick up something from the post office, but he really doesn't go anywhere. And it's been very hard on her with school starting back because she wants to go in person, but we can't risk my health. And I feel so guilty about it because that's thrown off her whole school year. And she's very, it has to be routine oriented, and she likes the structure of a school year. She loves school, and it's because of the structure. I get up at this time, I go to school, my classes are like this, I come home at this time, and then I go to bed. And with it now, it could be a little bit more, I get up at whatever time, I can do school when I get up, or I can do it later or whatever. It's too unstructured for her. So I made a schedule. I wrote it out on my Word, and formed it up and then printed it. And I have one on my back, on the back of my front door, and then one in her room, so that she can always look to see what she's supposed to be doing at that time. Because otherwise she'll play rather than, doing what she's supposed to do. And then so I can't be standing over her all day long. I have things I have to do, plus that would kill my back
The,
and my
pandem-
feet.
the pandemic has really changed everything for people who have immune issues. And I guess it really would be difficult, especially with her special needs, to cope with that, because I don't know, it's even for some adults I know who are without any problems, they find it difficult to deal with, like staying home and isolating. And I've had to tell some people, you can't come over. You cannot come over. My niece cannot come visit me because she has her daughter, one of her daughters, and her grandkids living there. And, it's like, we don't know if they're safe. She had COVID, and it was horrendous on her system, and she's still suffering from effects. So, she doesn't want me getting this or Sam. And it's just made a mess of things for people who have compromised systems.
Well, I have a friend who is at risk as much as I am, and I haven't seen her in months, but she's always wanting me to come over there and to see her and everything. And I'm like, I can't do that. I'm staying at home for a reason, and my main reason is it could be problematic because she does have family members who come over to check on her because it is just her living by herself, and friends of hers coming over to check on her. Well, yes, while I trust that she knows who she was around and, she could ask them, but I can't trust them because, one, it's not like I'm gonna call them liars, but how do they know who all they've been around that might have been exposed? I can't just trust anybody.
That's
And
right.
we had some friends that were constantly, "Can we come over? Can we come drop this off? Can we come do this?" And we kept telling them no, and they I got upset because they were high risk too, but I got upset because it was like, "Are you not taking my health into consideration?" They were just so pushy about it that we were like, "No, you can't." And that's the end of the story. We're not changing our mind anytime soon. It's gonna stay no. And, they just were not happy about it. They did not think they both worked in the public, and for some reason, they did not think that that would be a problem of, what they could be bringing to me. I don't know what was going on with them with that.
And that is one thing. It's like you can't rely on other people. I saw something the other day and it's very true. It's like having sex. You are not just having sex with the person you are with, you're having sex with everybody they've been with in the past few months, and maybe you can trust them, but you don't know if you can trust the people they were with. And if someone gets offended by that, well, that's their problem. That is their issue. You have to protect your own health.
Well, and when it comes to, people telling the truth about what they've been exposed to or whatever, I have a little bit of a trust issue with people with that because of the person who gave me HIV. He lied to me. He looked me in the eye and lied to me. And he had gotten tested. He just lied about the results. And I don't trust people that way. I did that one time and I wound up with HIV. I can't take a chance of trusting somebody and winding up with COVID because it could potentially kill me,
And
you
that sort
know?
of lack of trust, that sort of betrayal, because it was a betrayal,
Mhm.
that stays with you. And it compromised your life in so many ways. You're dealing years later with the effects of it. And COVID, for people, like us with immune problems, can be deadly. I'm not willing to give up my life just to trust somebody.
Yeah, my life, with some people, it seems like they think their life is more important than yours, and I'm like, "No, to me, my life is more important than yours, so don't come to my house,"
Yeah,
you know? And but when they're your friends and they're supposed to love you and care about you, and they just kinda don't even take into consideration about your health and the danger they could be putting you in, it hurts really badly.
it does. And, there are friends who are like that. Actually, I don't consider them friends at that point, but there are also people who just flat out forget. It's like, oh yeah, I was over there. I didn't remember it. But if someone is prone to forgetting things, or it doesn't cross their mind that that would be an issue, that again is an issue. I mean, it's like, yeah, I love you, but I can't trust that your memory is going to serve you right in that.
And besides that, somebody may have, COVID and not even know.
Yeah,
They're
it's
asymptomatic.
asymptomatic.
And
Exactly.
so you don't know 100% if they're not, if they are or not, unless you see a test. And it's the same thing with HIV. You can look at me and go, "Oh, you don't look like you have HIV." Well, what is somebody
What
with
does it look
HIV
like?
supposed to look like? Because I know several dozens of people that have HIV, and we all look very different. And there's nothing on any of us that would give you an indication of that we have it. My daughter is autistic. People say, "Oh, she doesn't look autistic." What does autism look like? What is being, what does having autism look like? They're like, "Oh, well, they look like this," and then they start describing some of the more severe symptoms of, and they don't seem to get that it's a spectrum. Every disorder and even illness, there's a spectrum. They're not all black and white, cut and dried. There's a spectrum to them all. And you have to understand that. And sometimes if you don't have a disability of some type, whether it be physical or, immune system wise or even intellectual, you don't realize there's a spectrum until there is. It's like, I know kids with Down syndrome, and Down syndrome, you would say Down syndrome and nobody would think it's a spectrum, but it is. There's a spectrum. There's higher functioning people with it and there's lower functioning. It's a spectrum. There's all kinds and everything in between. And I just try to love the people that I know and not judge them.
Okay, so I think at this point, we're going to end this interview. It's been a great time having you here on the channel. I'm glad that you agreed to come, talk to me. And, I'm very, very grateful you're my assistant because you do a great job. I hope that we've helped shed some light on some other types of disorders and that the people who are watching us, get something out of this. Jen, do you have any last words? Well, that sounded.
Yes, as I,
Jen, do you have any a parting statement? Any last tidbits you'd like to leave us with?
Well, this was fun. I'm glad that we could do this. Maybe we should do this again sometime. Just, I love my job. I love everything about the work that you do and that I get to be a part of it. I love, for those of you watching, I love all of you that are her fans of either her YouTube channel or her books or both, preferably both. It's just great to be involved with all of this and be part of your worlds as I read them. And, don't judge books by their covers. No pun intended. Just get to know people. Don't think that there's not something wrong. When they say there's something wrong, chances are there's something wrong, and, just learn to love people. And it'd make a much greater world if we all could love each other. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And well, I will talk to you soon. And, maybe sometime we'll do a round robin with Sam and a couple other people and just have a round robin forum. That might be fun. So thank you guys for watching. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. And we'll be back soon with more. And I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.